Today in Ed's how-to videos, I have decided to go ahead and build myself an ionization water tank. There are a lot of ionization water tanks out there that go from anywhere between $600 to $2,000. Well, I really don't have that kind of money to play around with. I've got kids. So I'm going to go ahead and take the advice of some things that I've seen online and build one. There are a couple of really good how-to videos on how to make one. They just sort of lack a little bit of something here and something there. And I want to go ahead and just make one for myself and show you how easy it is. First things first, let's go over the parts list. The parts list are very simple. You're going to need 2 tanks. One for good water, one for bad water. What we're talking about by ionizing the water is we're going to pass an electrical current through the water to get the impurities to go. As we know, current goes from negative to positive. We're going to go from the negative side of the tank to the positive side of the tank, and all those bad little impurities are going to flow over there through a little filter, which I'm going to show you in a second. So what we're doing is an electrolysis process of filling both jugs up with water. We're going to put an electrical current through them. We're going to get all the impurities and bad stuff out of there, and we're going to have high pH alkaline water left in this tank that we can drink. Now, that's the first thing you're going to need is 2 tanks. There are other tanks that you can get which cost a little more. These I got right at my local Winn-Dixie. They were a couple of bucks, and it took me a while to drink the water, so that's why I'm delayed in getting this video out and going. The 2 tanks, which we're going to cut open in a little bit, that's the first step. Second step is you're going to need what everybody and their brother calls the, I have to write it down because I don't remember this stuff, semi-permeable membrane. That's the filter that's going to run the negative impurities from one side of the tank to the other. It's a sponge, folks. 69 cents at your local drugstore, or at your hardware store, or wherever you want to buy it. That's that. You're going to need some washers. This is going to conduct the electricity. I got stainless steel. Everybody's going off about stainless steel saying, oh, bad impurities. A lot of people like to use titanium. I don't have the time to buy titanium right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and use stainless steel. This is the mother load right here, the power supply. Now, let's start with the power supply. This is a 13 volts, 2.1 amp power supply. It is DC, direct current. Do not get an AC power supply. You will blow yourself up. You will set yourself on fire. You will electrocute yourself in front of your wife and kids. They're going to cry. DC, direct current. One side's positive, one side's negative. I got this at my local garage for a couple of pennies. Okay? You're going to need a meter to find out which side is positive and which side is negative. You're going to need hair cutters, strippers, an X-Acto knife, a Sharpie. Now, to get those 2 bottles connected together, you're going to need some sort of a coupling. I've got this 1.5 inch threaded PVC coupling. It's plain on one side, it's threaded on the other, and I got a coupling that tightens up all the way to the inside. If you go to the hardware store and you start to put PVC couplings together, you're going to notice that they only thread in a couple of inches, and that's it, they're done. You've got to find one that will go ahead and screw all the way in. Okay? So that it doesn't leak, you're going to need some sort of a gasket. This is standard repair parts. I got this at Home Depot. It's just gasket. You cut it as you need it. Okay? I've already cut mine, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what you need to do. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Let's start with Mr. Tank. Oh, another thing that I've got is you can go out and buy yourself a pH meter, or you can get the pH strips at GNC. I'm using my pool's pH tester with the drops because I don't have the other stuff. I will eventually get them, but for now, this should work. Let's start with the tank. Okay, the first thing that you want to do is take your tank and you need to put a hole on the side. Now, relatively, what I would suggest is put it up pretty much high. Okay, you have to fill up over the top of that so that the electrodes flow back and forth, but don't put it down low because it's kind of a pain in the butt when you want to train the tank. So relatively high, like 3/4 of the way up. Put this little guy on the side. Take your Sharpie, put it down, and just mark a circle on the threaded side. Not the plain side. You want to cut on the threaded side because that's what's going to go through both tanks. Okay? Now, here's what I got right there. Now on this one I've already cut it to save a little bit of time. I went ahead and cut it. I slipped. I'm human. Okay. Now it's a little tight going in, but it actually does screw in, which is kind of cool. Okay. Now you need to put a hole in the other tank identical to where this one is, so that they couple together. Now what I did is I cut a hole in the top. Not very big, just enough to get water in there, and also for me to get my hand in there when I go to tighten up the couplings. So what we're going to do with this one is, I've got a ruler right here. I'm just going to go ahead and make a mark. I mark things nowadays because in my youth I was able to control an X-Acto knife and not have a problem. As I'm getting older, I tend to scream and yell and cut the daylights out of things. So I just mark things up so that I don't make mistakes. Please be careful. These are very, very sharp. Once you've got it, just cut along the outside. You need to tighten that up every now and then because it does get loose. Now this plastic is not very thick, except along the center here. There is a better tank out there. It's a blue tank. It's got screw-on caps and it's got very nice little valves on it. You can get those at Walmart. They're about $8-9 per jug. But like I said, and oh, those come empty, by the way. Sam knew what he was talking about when he was creating that stuff. This one came full of water. I think it was like $2.99. It just took me forever to drink all the water out of these things. And so nobody else wanted to help me drink my water. And it's thickest right at the center point. And there it goes, getting loose on me again. Just take your time. It's not like you're making a video for YouTube or anything like that. Last cut here. Like I said, it doesn't have to be very pretty, just big enough so that you can get your hand in there. Now here comes the tough part. To get the exact position of where these go, you have to line up the two tanks. Okay, you've got a hole in this one, but you don't have a hole in this one. So what you do is you take your Sharpie and you stick your hand inside here in the hole that you've already made and trace along the hole, and that'll give you the markings as to where they are when you couple them together. Okay? And I've already done that to save a little bit of time. That's where my hole is. So now you take, again, your knife and just cut. Take your time on this, because if you mess up, you're going to have to buy a new tank. Now the thing that I do want to suggest is if you're going to use an X-Acto knife, as I'm doing, get a sharp one. If you're going to try to do it with a dull one, you're going to drive yourself crazy and you're going to make mistakes. Just take your sweet time. And take your knife and clean out any edges. Now, take the coupling, make sure that it also goes in and tightens up. That is pretty good, pretty nice and snug. Alright, now that's that. Let's get that out of the way. We've got our two sides, got our coupling. We need a gasket to go between the tanks and on the insides to keep the water from rushing out. There's no pressure on this water, but it's still going to leak and it's going to make a mess. What you need to do is take your gasket device, and I was using my wife's pot holder. Good thing she's not here or anything, isn't that right, honey? Dirty looks all over the place. Take your Sharpie, use the threaded side. Put it on top of your gasket material, and don't start right at the corner because you're going to need to kind of go on the outside of that. Go all the way around, marking the gasket. You'll notice this video I'm not showing my face because I've kind of been lounging around the house for the last couple of days. I just got out of the pool with the kids, so I'm scruffy, nasty, but I wanted to make a video. Now, the wife wants to show my face. Once you've got your circle on your gasket device, go ahead and just use your knife and just go around. Again, take your time. It's not a race, but you do want to make halfway decent cut here. Okay. Once you're done, go ahead and take out the centerpiece. Now what you want to do is give yourself a 1/4 of an inch from where you cut and cut along the outside, thus making a nice little gasket. You don't have to measure or anything, just eyeball it. It's pretty good. One thing I do want to stress before you guys start to put any water in the tanks, clean all this stuff off. Okay, there's your gasket. It's going to fit nice and snug there. Perfect. You're going to need 3. Put one on this side, threaded side. This is going to go inside the tank. Okay, then put one on between the tanks, and then put one on the other side where you adjust the nut, which we're going to do. I've already cut myself some gaskets so that we're kind of good to go. Now, since I am going to go ahead and build it and fill it with water, what I'm going to do real quick is wash all this stuff in my little soapy water solution that I've got over here. There we go. Those are nice and clean. Wash this. That's nice and clean. And we'll wash all that stuff later. Okay. Step number 1. Take your coupler. On the threaded side, put the first gasket. There you go. Take your first tank, stick your hand in there, and stick the gasket through it. Sneak snug there. Alright. I don't know if you can see inside there, but the gasket's on the inside. Now we take another gasket and put it on the outside. It's up to you. You can put 1, you can put 2. I'm just going to try it with a 1. If it gives you a little bit of a trouble, add 2. Now we're going to take the second tank and just marry the 2 together. Tighten them up a little bit. There we go. going to take another gasket and stick it inside tank number 2 before we put our nut on. Nice and snug there. Now we're just going to take the nut and tighten the whole thing up. By the way, this is the first time that I'm actually doing something where I'm not even attempting to try it first with parts and pieces and then make the video. I'm going full blown. Tighten these puppies up as tight as they'll go. There we go. I don't know if you can see that here. It's nice and snug. Holds the tanks together. Okay, now we're good to go. All we gotta do is fill them up with water. But before we do that, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a piece of sponge, and I should have marked it, but luckily I've got a gasket, so I can mark it with the gasket. And just take your knife here and cut yourself a... Actually, I'm going to use the scissors. Do you have scissors in that drawer? Awesome! My kid's safety scissors. You just want the sponge to fit into the PVC pipe nicely. You don't want to jam a whole bunch of sponge in there so that nothing flows through it. So it's a nice little round cut. It's in there. It's nice and neat. It's good to go. That's my filter. Next, we take the DC power supply. I have no idea which side is positive and which side is negative. Although, being in electronics for as many years as I have been, I know that the stripe side is usually the negative side. But let's not take any chances and go ahead and do it. First of all, do not plug it in when you cut the connector off. Some of these have fuses, and if you do that, you will blow the fuse. You're not going to blow yourself up or anything, but still. Okay. Let's strip off some metal. Take the plastic off. Got ourselves some copper showing. Make sure those two ends do not touch. I'm going to plug in the power supply. And I sure as hell am not going to forget to unplug it when I'm done. Take your meter, put it into the DC range of 20 volts. Just let her sit there, and then we'll touch the negative side. Okay. And sure enough and behold, this one was wrong. The positive side is the stripe side. Okay. Now if you'll notice on my meter, I've got 13 volts. My black side, no, I was right, it's the stripe side. The black tip, negative, is on the stripe side. The red one is on the black wire here, which is my positive side. Memorize those. Okay? Just remember, stripe side, negative side. Not stripe side, positive side. That's on this one. Just check yours because it may be different. Okay? Now, what we're going to do next is take our stainless steel washers. And like I said, everybody and their brother is going to tell you, don't use metal, don't use steel, don't use copper, don't use this, don't use that, use titanium. Titanium is bad, but it's up to you guys. I mean, check your water, have it check for hardness, have it check for softness. I'm going to use stainless steel washers because that's what I got. Okay? Now strip off some copper and twist her up. You can use connectors, alligator clips, this, that, and the other thing. I don't have all that stuff. I do, it's in the garage, I just don't have time to go looking for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop it through the washer, loop it through again, pull it out on the other side. I got a double loop on there. and then just wrap it as tightly as I can. I don't like that. It's not really tight enough, so I'm going to tear it apart. And I'm going to strip some more copper back. It's not a snake. And start again. Twist it up. Stick it through. Double it through again. Pull her out. Okay. Make it nice and tight there. And then what I'm going to do is twist it. Twist the washer right onto that copper wire. Recommendation: when you're done and you're going to use the ionized water, take these connectors out of the water, dry them off so that they don't corrode, and save them until next time. Okay, I want a little bit of copper showing, so I'm going to strip off here. Twist up my wire. The reason I'm twisting up the wire is because I don't want any of the single loose wires to break as I'm bending them back and forth. So if you twist it up like that, it tends to make it just a little bit stronger. Okay, this one I made pretty big. Just twist up your washer. Nice and tight. You don't want a loose connection. Okay, nice tight little connection. Now, plug this puppy in again. Take our meter. And test your washers to make sure that everything conducts. We're good to go. That's my negative side. That's my positive side. Okay. Unplug it. Now, just so that I don't forget, because I don't have the different colored wires or anything, I'm just going to mark this here so that I know. Eventually what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the wire up high. Actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just take the negative wire, put a knot in it at the top. Okay. Forget what I just did with the washer. Get that off, because it'll contaminate the water. 2 seconds. Okay. I've cleared up my mistake. I've got my negative wire marked with a knot. I've got my positive wire all by itself. Now, what you want to do is you want to have these electrodes in the water, but don't just dump them in. Some people do that. You can do that. It'll work, but I want them to hang about halfway down. So what I'll do is I will take my little knife here and I'm going to cut a little notch. Along the top here. And of course it just had to fall into the tank. So we're going to drain and clear the tanks anyway before we begin. Now, very important, before you begin the process, make sure to clean and clear your tanks out, which we're going to do. Now, check your electrodes when you put it in there so that it hangs about halfway down. Put it in with a little notch so that it sticks. There we go. That's what it's going to look like. Okay, we're good to go. We're ready to see if this thing is going to work out. We've got our coupler, we've got our power supply, it is unplugged, and just to show you, I'm going to plug it in and touch both these terminals just to show you that DC current is not going to kill you, hurt you, maim you, set you on fire. unless it's a high current like a battery. If you take a car battery and you touch the terminals together with your fingers, you're going to feel a little jolt. These are just 12 volt, nothing. It's plugged in. It's good to go. Okay, it's not going to hurt me, but don't go shorting it together to see if you see a spark. Like I said, some of these are actually fused, and you will do damage. There we go. Make sure we're on. We're good to go. Alright. Now we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and fill the tank. And I'll come back in a couple seconds. Okay, and we're back. Now, the only thing that I did while we were away is I filled up the tanks because these are 2.5 gallon tanks. It takes a little bit to fill them up. I filled them up, I checked for a leak. I did have a little bit of a leak, so I dumped the water out, I tightened up my connector a little bit more, and I'm looking at it right now and we're pretty good to go. Okay, take your Sharpie. The next step is mark one tank as a negative and the other one as a positive. Okay. There is a video on YouTube that says drink from the positive side. This is the acidic side. You do not want to do that. The only thing this water is going to be good for is plants and just plain old dumping it away. You want to drink from the alkaline side, the negative side. Now that you've marked them, always make sure that the negative terminal goes on the negative tank, the positive goes on the positive tank. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to loop it around here and then just stick it into my loop. And like I said, don't take it all the way to the bottom of the tank. It's halfway down is great. Alright. Get in there. And we are good to go. When you're done, drain your water. One of the things to keep is one of the circles that you cut out of the gasket thing. Because when you're going to drain the water, just go ahead and stick it into the positive side. Cover up that side so that you don't have the positive mixing into the negative. What I do is I'm going to cover up the positive side, drain out some of that acidic water, and then drain out my negative water until it's below the connector, and then I can go ahead and do it as I please. Take it out of the tank, store it. It's going to hold for a couple of days before it starts to lose its alkalinity. Okay. Once you've done that, go ahead and plug her in. Now, debatable, how long is it going to take for your tank to have clean water? I'm looking for a pH of about 9. I've tortured my body for 48 years and I've eaten way too many burgers, way too many pizzas. I need to clean my body out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hope for a pH of 9. It may take 4 hours, it may take 12 hours. I've read somewhere where it might take up to 24 hours, but what I'm going to do is on this video, I'm going to test the water every hour and give you a pH reading. Now what I'm going to do right now is, oh by the way, one of the signs that you're going to tell that this is actually working is when you look down and you see the electrodes, you're going to see some bubbles forming on it, and eventually you'll see bubbles going across. This water is going to stay clear, while this water tends to turn a little bit brownish. Okay? But what I'm going to do for right now is I'm going to use my pH from my pool. I'm going to suck up some of the water here just to give me a level as to where I'm at. Okay. 5 drops is what it's going to take. When I first got my pool and I got this thing, I was like, oh, 1, 2, 3. After a while, you don't care, you're like 5. It may be hard to see, but my pH is right about ideal for pool water, which is like 7.6, which your blood or pH is going to be about 7.4, something. So this is tap water. Okay. As I start to become more and more alkaline, I'm going to see it turn like a purplish blue. That's what we're hoping for. You can test for chlorine if you want to, but that's not about it. So that's about it. Now if I look inside here, I can already see bubbles forming on my negative electrode, and not on my positive yet, but eventually I'm going to see them flowing through. So that's it. You've created yourself an ionization tank. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue the video. We're going to check it. It's 10 o'clock p.m. my time. So I'm going to test it again at 11, and we'll see where the pH is, and I'll just keep documenting as I go along to see how long this is going to take using a 13-volt power supply and these 2.5 gallon tanks. Alright, so for now, I'm going to go watch Storage Wars. Okay, one step that I forgot to do before we start the timer to see how long it's going to take is you need to add a little salt. That's too much, so let's just add like a teaspoon. And I'm using sea salt, of course, natural sea salt. So this tank. And some in the tank. And we'll come back and check it like in an hour or two and see what we got. Okay, last time it was 10 o'clock, the time that I added the salt because I forgot. And now it is 1:30 in the morning, so we're looking roughly at 3.5 hours that have gone by. And I really got into my Storage War movies shows that I have recorded, so that's why it took me a while to get back here, but let's see what we got. Alright. Oh. Alright, it's jumped up from 7.5 to about a little bit higher pH. It's right around 7 point, actually, yeah, from 7 to 7.8. So it's jumped up a bit. A little bit more purple than it was before. So we're just going to let it go overnight and see what we got in the morning. Okay, here we are. It's 2 o'clock. So it's well over 12 hours. We're looking at 14 hours since I started the project, and we're going to do the testing. But before I do, we just picked up our kids from school, and I want to show you my daughter Maggie.
Hi.
She's so proud because the guy she likes gave her a present today. Show the present. Look at that. A bracelet. I tried to explain to her that when a guy gives a girl a bracelet, it means that they're married. But she doesn't.
No,
Yeah, it does too. Yes, you're married.
I'm 9 years old.
You're married. You're married. You're married. You're married.
I'm 9 years old.
Do you like the bracelet?
Maybe.
She likes the bracelet. All right, go away.
Bye.
So here we are, 2 o'clock, and we're going to do a pH test of the water. She doesn't get it. She is married. You're married.
No, I'm not. I'm 9 years old.
All right. There you go. It's nice and purple. We're looking at about a pH of about 8.2. I'm going to let this go for about 24 hours to see what we got. Just to show you the difference, I'm going to do some regular old tap water. Show you the pH of that. I don't know if you can see it all that well in the camera, but one is very purple, the other one is not as purple. It's like a pH of about 7.6, 7.2. My ionized water is right up there. It's a little bit more purple than the 8.2. So like I said, I'm going to let go for 24 hours and see what that looks like. It's going to look like the best is going to be around between 16 and 24 hours. But we'll do it again in one last video at 24 hours. Okay, it is 10 o'clock. It has been 24 hours since we started my little experiment. I'm going to try to show you guys. I'm going to move the camera in a second. My lovely wife has been dying to pull the anode out of the positive side. If you look inside the tanks, this one, the water is crystal clear. You can see all the way to the bottom. If you look inside this tank, you can't even see the other connector because the water is brown, dark, and gross. So we're going to test the water real quick. And the first thing I'm going to do is unplug it since it's been running for 24 hours and it's done. And let's give it 5 drops here. And I don't know if you can see it, it's a very bright purple color, telling me that my pH is probably way above 8.2. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this and clean it out. I'm going to fill one side with regular old tap water, and this is going to be my tap water side, and I'm going to fill the other side with my freshly ionized alkaline water. Put 5 drops in both. So you guys can see the difference. Okay. Now I do not know if you can see it pretty good or not, but you can see my alkalized water is nice and purple, high pH value. My regular tap water is just where it says like around a little bit below ideal, like at 7.2 pH. This only goes up to 8.2, but I think that's darker than that. So we're looking at probably around 8.5, maybe 9. That's after 24 hours. Now what my wife has been dying to do, go ahead, pull it out, babe. This is the positive anode, and you can see the gunk that's on that solid stainless steel washer. And also, if we can get a nice picture of it in here, I'm going to try to show you guys. I don't know if you can see it or not, but that's the positive side. The acid side is brown, whereas the other side is nice and clear. It's the negative side that you can drink. And the last thing that we're going to do is I am going to drain the positive side below the connector with using one of the rubber gaskets that I cut out yesterday to block it. Once it's below that, then I can drain this side without any fear of any of the gunk coming in there. Okay, but just to try it. Sure that I'm not afraid to drink my own experiments. A little salty, but it tastes pretty damn good. Now I'm going to drink some of the positive side. No, I'm not. But just to show you, take a look at that. That's what the electrolysis process pulled out of that puppy. I'm going to go put this in my plants outside. There's no way nobody's going to drink that. But. So that's it. That's your homemade water ionization. The parts really cost me less than $20. The most expensive thing was the 2 tanks of water. The power supply I found in my garage. I had an old Canon printer and I used that. This is like about $2. The salt and sponge like 89 cents. And also if you want to get yourself some pH strips. This is okay, but it's not the best in the world. That's it. Good luck. Email me if you got any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them.